Hello, my name is Tansy. I love all things vampire. I've written a vampire novel. I'm here to promote my book so that by the time it comes out in March, you know a bit more about me, about what I love about vampires, what I love about vampire movies and books and series, and therefore you're really excited to see my take on this genre. So to get into that, I really need to go back to one of the very first films that captured my imagination and that started this love affair with vampires that I've kept all my life. So you'd think I would go over here and immediately reach for this film, which is actually the book of the film, but you'd think I'd come over here immediately for The Lost Boys, but no, I'm actually not going to start with The Lost Boys, because The Lost Boys was in fact not the first vampire I fell in love with, not the first vampire I adored. Jerry Dandridge was the first vampire I fell in love with, and in the film Fright Night. Now, Fright Night comes out in 1985. So I am the tender age of 11. Yes, that's how I am ridiculously old. But this film comes out in 1985. Now, I couldn't go see this at the cinema because at the age of 11, I hadn't yet perfected the art of paying to go see one movie, then leaving the auditorium just after it began and going in to see the movie you really wanted to see. I didn't get that right until that film. So The Lost Boys comes out a little bit later on in 1988, and by then I had perfected the art of going in to watch whatever film I wanted to at the cinema. So I did get to see this film at the cinema. I didn't get to see this film at the cinema. But I did get this film as soon as it came out on video at my local video shop. I was very lucky that my local video shop and my parents had an agreement with each other and agreed that I could watch the films I wanted to watch. I was very into horror movies. Not only did I love Fright Night, but I loved Nightmare on Elm Street. I had a poster of Freddy Krueger. Other kids might have had posters of pop stars. I had posters of horror movie. And specifically, I loved horror movie makeup artists. So I also had posters up of Tom Savini and Rob Bottin and my favourite makeup artists. Look, no one ever said I was a normal kid. I have autism. It was my special interest. I was an autistic kid and I didn't like trains. I didn't get the trains and maths kind of autism. I got the horror movies kind of autism. So Fright Night came out and this film was not like anything else I'd seen. The monster in it is suddenly really suave, very personable, very interesting, has a much better plot arc. His sidekick, Billy, in it is just really interesting in and of themselves. You've got this situation, a teenage boy has somebody move in next door to them, and they realise that their next door neighbour is a vampire, but obviously nobody believes them. They then go about trying to prove their neighbour is a vampire by going and seeing a famous vampire killer from stage and screen, a TV star, a film star who had fallen down on their luck, became a TV star, Peter Vincent. He convinces Peter Vincent, or tries to convince Peter Vincent, to come over and help him with his neighbour who's a vampire. Now, the vampire in it, Jerry Dandridge, is for their part sort of not that interested in the teenage boy next door. Whatever, you're a teenage boy, just leave me alone. Threatens him, leave me alone. But things kind of get a little bit more complicated when the vampire falls in on the old trope of, unfortunately, Charlie Brewster's girlfriend, Amy, turns out to look exactly like his old love from 100 years ago, and unfortunately no vampire can resist their ancient love reborn. It's a trope that I'm not personally a fan of, but it does come up over and over again. But yeah, so Amy is the ancient love reborn, so suddenly Jerry takes an interest, and now Charlie does need to go out of the picture. Also, they're really getting a little bit too annoying. Calls the police on him, gets the vampire hunter to come over. It's getting complicated. It's uncomfortable. Jerry just wants to be left alone, bless him. He just wants to murder people quietly in his room at night. Just, leave him alone. He's a polite monster. So things come to a head. They pay Peter Vincent to go over to check on Jerry Dandridge and to prove to you that I'm not a vampire. But he is a vampire. Now, all of the tests don't work. They fake the holy water and etc. The tests don't work. But as he's going to leave, Peter Vincent sneakily looks at him in a mirror. Jerry Dandridge doesn't have a reflection. Peter Vincent freaks out and he's going to pack up and leave. So then Jerry Dandridge realises he's been caught out and thinks, I'm going to make my move. I'm going to go get Amy. Goes and gets Amy. Charlie has to go and try and save the day. Has to try and call Peter Vincent. Peter Vincent says, hell's to the no. I'm just a retired TV star. I'm not doing that. But does eventually turn up, rock up, and they are able to confront Jerry Dandridge. It's brilliant. It's a masterclass in pacing. The acting is brilliant. Chris Sarandon as Jerry Dandridge, fantastic. I mean, I do have rose-tinted specs when it comes to this film because I was obsessed. But it's brilliant, and I think it still very much holds up as a fantastic retelling of the classic vampire story in a modern setting. If by modern we mean the 1980s, early 90s. It does date, obviously, because of that, but brilliant. Now, come again for the later part. You come again in 2000 because it gets remade. It gets remade with the amazing Colin Farrell playing the vampire. I know, bizarre, right? I hated it. Came out, I hated it. It's not enough like my Fright Night, hated it. Slept on it for a year or two after the initial watching in the cinema. How dare they do that to my beautiful film. Came back to it more recently. I'm in love with it again, actually. It's brilliant. Now, don't sleep on the remake. The vampire is very different. It goes from being this solitary vampire to much more of a Salem's Lot. I'm going to take over the world by breeding out of all recognition. I'm just going to have thousands of vampire babies and then I'm going to take over your whole town. So it's a very different sort of vampire. Jerry Dandridge, solo vampire. I just want to be left alone. Jerry Dandridge remake. I'm basically a cockroach and I'm going to take over the world. However, then you still have Charlie Brewster, Amy and Peter Vincent, this time played by Doctor Who himself, David Tennant. Go and watch that performance. It's brilliant. Chris Sarandon, the original Jerry Dandridge, has a cameo. Gets summarily killed by new Jerry Dandridge, but brilliant. It's very different. I love the fact that Charlie Brewster's mother actually gets a role to play in the remake, whereas in the first film, she's just never there. She's an absentee mum. His sidekick, his friend, Charlie Brewster's friend, evil Ed Thompson, gets more of a role to play as well. And it is played for laughs. Both of them have comedy elements. It's not a comedy by any stretch, but there are funny elements through it. They are aware of the absurdity of the film they're making. Please, please, please go and check out Fright Night and go and check out Fright Night, the remake. I think you'll love them. I'd love to hear your opinion on them, especially because you know my opinion on them, and I can talk to you at greater length about some of the other things that I loved about both of these films and both of these tellings. Sad that in the remake we get no Billy. I liked the vampire having a human to look after them during the day. That goes, which is a shame. But Jerry Dandridge figuring out how to get past the can't be invited in, brilliant. Gets invited in by in the first film. In the second film, I don't need an invite if there is no house. It's brilliant. Go see these films. I love them and they are very formative to my love of all things vampire.